My husband kissed me goodbye every Monday morning for 7 years. He said he loved me. He said he'd call when he landed. What he never said was that he had another wife, another house, 2 other children, and that every single Monday he flew straight to them. I found out on a Tuesday. By Friday, I had already started destroying him. My name is Sarah Mitchell. I'm 38 years old, and I live in Seattle, Washington. I'm a marketing director at a mid-sized tech firm downtown. The kind of job that sounds glamorous until you're in your 4th consecutive hour of back-to-back meetings on a Wednesday afternoon. I'm good at it. I think clearly under pressure, I read people well, and I don't rattle easily. That last part matters. Remember it. David and I met 11 years ago at a work conference in San Francisco. He was in corporate finance, smart, polished, the kind of man who could walk into any room and immediately understand its dynamics. We dated long distance for 8 months before he relocated to Seattle. We were married 3 years later in a small ceremony on the water. Just close friends and family. Exactly the way I wanted it. For the first 4 years, life was good. Not perfect, no marriages, but genuinely good. We bought a house in Queen Anne, a beautiful old craftsman with original hardwood floors and a front porch that looked out over the neighborhood. I planted a garden. David built bookshelves for the living room with his own hands. We talked about children the way couples do. Someday, when the timing is right, when things settle down a little. The timing never felt quite right. And things never quite settled down. David traveled for work. That was simply a fact of our marriage from the beginning. His firm had clients in Portland, San Francisco, and Chicago, and he was on the road too, sometimes 3 weeks out of every month. I had accepted that early on. It wasn't ideal, but it was manageable, and he was always present when he was home. Attentive, affectionate, exactly what a husband should be. I trusted him completely. I want you to understand that. I was not a naive woman. I was not someone who ignored obvious signs. I was an intelligent, observant person who had been systematically and expertly deceived by someone who had spent years perfecting the performance. The beginning of the end started with a delayed flight. It was a Tuesday in March. David was supposed to be in Portland for 3 days. Standard client meetings, same as always. He'd been gone since Monday morning. I was home, working late on a campaign brief, when my phone rang at just past 9 in the evening. It was a woman's voice. Calm, but with something underneath it. A tension she was working to control. "Is this Sarah?" she said. "Yes," I said. "Who is this?" "My name is Karen Holloway," she said. "I think we need to talk about David Mitchell." I remember the specific quality of that moment. The way the words landed. My brain registered them clearly, parsed their meaning, and then did something interesting. It went very quiet. Not panic, just still. "What about David?" said. Another pause, longer this time. "He's been living with me," she said carefully. "In Portland. For 7 years. We have 2 children together. He told me he was divorced." The room didn't spin. My hands didn't shake. I sat at my desk and looked at the campaign brief open on my laptop screen. A headline I'd been trying to rewrite for 20 minutes, and I felt something move through me that I can only describe as a cold, clarifying wave. Like a fever breaking. "How did you find me?" said. "His wallet," Karen said. "He left it at home when he flew to Seattle this week. I found your name on the insurance card. I Googled you." Breath. "I'm so sorry. Had no idea. I swear to you, I had no idea." I believed her. I don't know exactly why. Instinct, maybe, or the particular quality of distress in her voice that didn't feel like performance. I just believed her. "How old are your children?" said. 6 and 4, she said quietly. Closed my laptop. "Karen," I said. "I need you to not contact David yet. Not tonight. Can you do that?" "Yes," she said. "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to think," I said. "And then I'm going to make sure that when this is over, neither of us is left with nothing." I did not sleep that night. But I did not spend it crying either. I spent it thinking. Making notes. pulling up financial records on my laptop that I had not looked at closely in years because I had trusted the man I shared them with. Washington State is a community property state. Everything acquired during a marriage, income, assets, investments, real estate, belongs equally to both spouses. David had been earning a significant salary for 11 years. Our joint accounts, our investment portfolio, the equity in the Queen and house. All of it was legally half mine. But here was the thing that David had apparently not considered carefully enough. If he had been maintaining a second household in Portland for 7 years, rent or mortgage, living expenses, 2 children, he had been doing it with money. And money leaves trails. I opened our joint investment account at midnight, then our joint checking, then the secondary savings account David managed that I had, in my trust, largely left to him. By 2 in the morning I had found $340,000 in transfers over 7 years that had no documentation I could locate in our shared financial records. Small amounts, regular intervals, always to an account I didn't recognize. I took screenshots of everything. Then I opened a new browser window and searched for family law attorneys in Seattle. I was not going to react. I was not going to confront David when he walked through the door. I was not going to give him a single moment of warning. I was going to build a case so airtight that when I finally moved, there would be nowhere left for him to go. I called the attorney's office the moment they opened at 8 the next morning. Her name was Rebecca Yates, a family law specialist in downtown Seattle with a reputation I'd found in 3 separate glowing reviews from women who had, in their own words, come out the other side intact. That phrase appealed to me. I didn't want vengeance for its own sake. I wanted to come out the other side intact, with everything I was legally entitled to, and not $1 less. Rebecca's assistant gave me an appointment for that afternoon. David was due home Thursday. I had exactly 48 hours. Rebecca Yates was a small woman in her late 50s with reading glasses she kept pushing up her nose and the kind of focused attention that made you feel like the only person in the building. I sat across from her conference table and told her everything. The phone call, the financial records, the screenshots, the 7 years of Monday morning goodbyes that had been lies from the very first one. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she pushed her glasses up, looked at her notes and said, "Washington is a community property state. You know that." "I looked it up last night," I said. She almost smiled. "Of course you did." She tapped her pen against the notepad. "The unauthorized transfers are our strongest immediate leverage. If he was moving marital funds to support a second household without your knowledge or consent, that is financial misconduct. It affects how the court views asset division." "How significantly?" "Yes, significantly enough," she said. "Combined with the adultery. Washington is a no-fault state, so adultery doesn't directly impact the divorce decree, but it absolutely informs the narrative around the financial misconduct. Judges are human beings, Sarah. They respond to the full picture." He nodded. "What do I do between now and Thursday?" "Nothing that looks different," she said firmly. "You go home. You act normal. You do not access any joint accounts beyond your usual patterns. You do not remove assets. You do not confront him." She looked at me steadily. "Can you do that?" "Yes," I said without hesitation. She studied me for a moment. "Most people can't," she said. "I'm not most people," I said. David came home Thursday evening with flowers. He did that sometimes after a long trip. Stopped at the market near the house and came through the door with a bunch of whatever looked good, slightly road-worn, jacket over his arm, already talking about how good it was to be home. That particular Thursday it was yellow tulips, my favorite, which felt almost poetic in its awfulness. I had spent 2 days preparing for this moment. Not emotionally. Emotionally, I had gone somewhere quiet and functional that I intended to stay until this was finished. What I had prepared was the performance. The normal evening. The wife who was simply glad her husband was home. I put the tulips in a vase. I made dinner. We sat at the kitchen table in the house we owned together and talked about his week, carefully vague on his end, as I now understood, full of half-truths and constructed details, and I listened and responded and refilled his wine glass and gave him absolutely nothing. After dinner he sat on the couch and I sat beside him and we watched television for an hour. His arm around my shoulders, completely ordinary, completely devastating. When he fell asleep I went to the kitchen and sat at the table alone for a few minutes. Then I texted Karen. "He's home. How are you holding up?" Her reply came quickly. "Barely. My sister is here. The kids keep asking where Daddy is." I looked at that message for a long time. Those two children, 6 and 4 years old, were as innocent in this as anyone could be. Whatever happened next was going to affect them. That weight was real and I didn't push it away. I sat with it. Then I typed back. "Stay strong. Rebecca says we should meet in person. Can you come to Seattle next week?" "Yes," she wrote. "Tell me when." Karen Holloway drove up from Portland on a Wednesday morning and met me at a coffee shop 3 blocks from Rebecca's office. I had not known what to expect. In the irrational part of my brain, the part that operated on pure emotion rather than reason, I had constructed some vague image of the other woman. Younger, maybe. More obviously something I was not. Karen was none of that. She was a quiet, dark-haired woman with tired eyes and the particular composure of someone holding themselves together through sheer will. She had brought photographs. Her house in Portland, her children, Christmas mornings, birthday parties. A whole life, documented and real, running parallel to mine for 7 years without either of us knowing the other existed. We sat across from each other and neither of us said anything for a moment. "I keep thinking I should hate you," Karen said finally. "But I can't. I keep thinking the same thing," I said. She looked down at her coffee cup. "He told me he traveled to Seattle for work. Every week. I never questioned it." She laughed, a short, humorless sound. "I made him a travel bag. Packed it for him. Every Monday morning." The specific cruelty of that detail settled in the space between us. "Karen," I said, "I need to ask you something directly. Are you willing to cooperate fully? Documents, testimony, everything Rebecca needs." She looked up. Her jaw was set. "He took 7 years of my life," she said quietly. "He let me raise 2 children believing we were a real family. He lied to my face every single day." She shook her head. "Yes, I'll cooperate. Whatever it takes." I reached across the table and handed her Rebecca's card. "Then let's take him apart properly," I said. The next 2 weeks moved with a momentum I had not anticipated. Rebecca filed for divorce on a Friday, serving David at his office downtown, which he had not expected, which was entirely the point. Simultaneously, Karen's attorney in Portland, a woman Rebecca had recommended, filed a civil suit against David for fraudulent misrepresentation and the financial support of a household maintained under false pretenses. 2 legal actions. 2 states. Same man. David called me 17 times in the 4 hours after he was served. I answered on the 18th call, because Rebecca had advised me that complete silence could be used to characterize me as uncooperative. I needed to be reachable. I simply needed to say nothing useful. "Sarah." His voice was different, stripped of the polish. Raw in a way I had never heard before. "Please, just let me explain. Your attorney can contact Rebecca Yates," I said. "You have her number. Sarah, please just listen to me." "David," I said calmly, "there is nothing you can say to me that belongs in this conversation. Everything from this point goes through our attorneys." Hung up. I sat in the quiet of the house we had bought together, the craftsman with the hardwood floors and the garden I had planted and the bookshelves he had built with his own hands, and I felt something move through me. Not grief. Not yet. Something that felt surprisingly like clarity. David hired an attorney named Stephen Park, a sharp, aggressive family law specialist who had a reputation for making divorce proceedings as complicated and drawn out as possible. Rebecca had warned me about attorneys like him. "He'll try to delay everything," she told me. "He'll file motions, request extensions, challenge documentation. His strategy will be to exhaust you financially and emotionally until you accept a lesser settlement just to make it stop. How do we counter that?" "Yes." She smiled thinly. "By being more prepared than he expects." We were. The first settlement meeting happened 3 weeks after David was served. He walked in looking like a man who had aged 5 years in 3 weeks. The polish was gone, the easy confidence, the room-reading charm that had defined him for as long as I'd known him. What remained was something smaller. A man who had been running 2 lives simultaneously for 7 years and had just watched both of them collapse at once. He didn't look at me when he sat down. That told me everything about where his head was. Stephen Park opened confidently, proposing a standard community property split, 50-50 across all marital assets, with David retaining his investment accounts and both parties splitting the home equity. Rebecca let him finish. Then she opened her folder. She laid out the financial misconduct documentation first. 7 years of transfers, $340,000 in total, from our joint marital accounts to the Portland household. Each transfer dated, documented, and cross-referenced against David's travel records and Karen's household expenses. The paper trail was immaculate. Then she presented the fraudulent misrepresentation filing from Portland. Karen's civil suit, a separate but parallel legal action, established that David had maintained a second family using funds that were, under Washington community property law, half mine. Every dollar he had spent furnishing Karen's house, paying her utilities, buying Christmas presents for children he'd fathered outside our marriage. Half of it had legally belonged to me. Stephen Park's confidence visibly shifted as the documents accumulated on the table. David stared at the financial records. His jaw worked silently for a moment. These transfers were for legitimate business expenses, Stephen said carefully. Rebecca slid another document across the table. We have Karen Holloway's bank statements for the corresponding periods, she said pleasantly. The deposits align precisely. We're happy to present those to the court if that's the direction you'd prefer. Stephen asked for a recess. The recess lasted 50 minutes. I sat in Rebecca's waiting area and drank coffee I didn't taste and looked out the window at Seattle in the rain, gray and clean and indifferent, and thought about the Monday mornings. 11 years of them. The tulips he'd brought home Thursday. The bookshelves he'd built with his own hands. I had loved that man. Genuinely, completely, in the uncomplicated way you love someone when you believe the version of them they've shown you is real. That love was not a weakness or a failure of judgment. It was a reasonable response to a carefully constructed lie. I allowed myself to feel that fully, sitting in that waiting room. And then I set it down. When we reconvened, Stephen Park's posture had changed. The aggressive positioning was gone, replaced by the careful language of an attorney recalibrating his approach. They were willing to discuss, he said, a modified asset division. Rebecca's counter was precise. The Queen and house, now worth $820,000 with the mortgage nearly retired, was to be transferred entirely to me. The logic was clean. The down payment had come from my savings, the mortgage had been serviced primarily from my income during the years David was diverting funds elsewhere, and the financial misconduct gave the court ample grounds for disproportionate division. The joint investment portfolio, $290,000, was to be split 70-30 in my favor. David's personal investment accounts, opened during the marriage and therefore community property, were subject to division. We were claiming 50% of those as well. Total value of what we were claiming, just over $600,000 in assets, plus full ownership of the house. Stephen pushed back on the house. Rebecca reminded him quietly that we had 17 months of documented financial misconduct ready for a judge who would be looking at the full picture of this marriage. David spoke for the first time in 2 hours. Fine, he said. His voice was flat, emptied out. The house. Take the house. Stephen looked at his client with the expression of an attorney who has just lost control of his own case. What happened outside the legal proceedings was, in some ways, more significant. David's employer, a Seattle-based financial firm with a strict code of conduct regarding personal integrity, became aware of the situation through channels I will not detail here, except to say that when you work in corporate finance and you have been committing what amounts to sustained financial fraud against your own spouse, your professional reputation does not survive the disclosure intact. He was asked to resign in lieu of termination 4 weeks after the divorce filing. I did not orchestrate that. I want to be clear about it. Rebecca had advised me to stay entirely within the legal process and not to take any action that could be characterized as targeted harassment. I followed that advice completely. But I will also say, I did not grieve it. Karen called me the evening after the settlement meeting. "How did it go?" she asked. "Well," I said. "Rebecca is good." "Mine too," she said. "Sarah, how are you?" Actually, it was a simple question. The kind of question that, asked at the right moment by the right person, lands differently than it should. I thought about it honestly. "I'm angry," I said. "But I'm okay. I think I've been okay since the night you called me." "Really?" She sounded surprised. "The night you called," I said, "was the night I stopped living inside a lie." "That's not nothing." Karen was quiet for a moment. "I keep thinking about what I'm going to tell the kids," she said softly. "When they're old enough." "Tell them the truth," I said. "They deserve that. Whatever he did, they didn't choose it." She exhaled. "You're a good person, Sarah." "I'm a person who's had a very clarifying few weeks," I said. She laughed. A real one this time, surprised out of her. It was, I realized, the first time either of us had laughed since any of this began. The divorce was finalized on a Thursday morning in October. Seattle was doing what Seattle does in October. Steady rain, soft gray light, the kind of morning that feels contemplative rather than sad. I drove myself to the courthouse. I had offered to carpool with Rebecca, but she had another hearing beforehand. So I parked alone on a quiet street 2 blocks away and walked through the rain without an umbrella, which felt oddly appropriate. I was not the same woman who had answered Karen's phone call 7 months earlier. That woman had been living inside a carefully constructed fiction, comfortable enough that she hadn't felt its edges. This woman knew exactly where every edge was. I found that I preferred it. The hearing was brief and procedural. The agreed terms had been documented, reviewed, and signed by both attorneys weeks prior. There was very little left to do except make it official in front of a judge. David was there across the aisle with Stephen Park. He looked diminished in a way that had nothing to do with physical appearance. It was something in his bearing, the particular deflation of a man who has spent years managing an elaborate deception and has finally, completely, run out of room to maneuver. He looked at me once when I walked in. Gave him nothing. Not anger, not satisfaction, not grief. Just the steady, neutral gaze of a woman who has already finished processing him and moved on to the next thing. Judge Patricia Hollins, no relation to Karen, though I noted the coincidence privately, reviewed the settlement agreement with the careful attention of someone who had seen every variation of marital dissolution and was not easily surprised. Community Property Division. Disproportionate asset allocation citing documented financial misconduct. Full transfer of the Queen and property to Sarah Mitchell. She signed the decree at 10:23 in the morning. 11 years. Signature. Rebecca shook my hand in the hallway with both of hers. A small departure from her usual professional reserve that meant more than she probably intended. "You handled this exceptionally well," she said. "I had a good attorney," I said. "You had good instincts," she corrected. "The attorney just organized them." I walked back out into the rain and stood on the courthouse steps and breathed. The house was mine. The investment settlement had been transferred. David's resignation from his firm had been followed 2 weeks later by the news that he was relocating. Portland, presumably, though I had stopped tracking his movements the moment the legal proceedings concluded. Whatever life he was rebuilding from the wreckage of his own making was no longer my concern. I had come out the other side intact. More than intact, actually. But I'll get to that. I want to tell you about Karen. In the months following the divorce, we stayed in contact. Not constantly. Not in the way of close friends who had known each other for years, but steadily. Text messages, the occasional phone call, a lunch in Portland once when I drove down for a work conference. She was doing the hard work of rebuilding a life that had been constructed on someone else's lies. Her civil suit against David had resulted in a settlement that gave her and her children financial stability. Not comfort exactly, but solid ground. She had gone back to work part-time. Her sister had moved nearby to help with the kids. She was, I thought, one of the strongest people I had encountered through all of this. Not because she was unaffected, she was deeply, genuinely affected, but because she kept moving anyway. "Do you ever feel stupid?" she asked me once during one of our phone calls. "For not seeing it?" I thought about that honestly. "No," I said. "I feel angry that someone I trusted used that trust as a weapon. That's different from feeling stupid." She was quiet for a moment. "I'm still working on that distinction," she said. "Take your time," I said. "It holds up." There is something I have thought about often in the year since the divorce, something I don't think gets said enough in stories like this one. The victory is real. I want to be honest about that. Walking out of that courthouse with a house, with a settlement, with my financial future secured and David's carefully constructed double life fully and publicly collapsed. That felt like justice, and I'm not going to pretend it didn't. 7 months of patient, precise legal strategy had produced exactly the outcome Rebecca and I had aimed for. But justice is not the same thing as healing. And winning is not the same thing as being okay. The grief came later. Not for David exactly, but for the version of my life I had believed in. The craftsman house that was now mine alone. The front porch where I still drank my morning coffee but without the weight of someone else's arm around my shoulders. The children I had kept saying we'd have someday. The uncomplicated future I'd been moving toward that had never actually existed. I sat with that grief. I didn't rush it or minimize it. I went to therapy. A pragmatic, no-nonsense woman named Dr. Ellen Foster who had a gift for asking the one question you hadn't thought to ask yourself. I gave the grief the time it needed. And then, gradually, something shifted. 8 months after the divorce, I redesigned the back room of the house. It had been David's home office, a room I had avoided in the months after he left because it still smelled faintly like him, which I resented and couldn't entirely explain. I cleared it out completely, painted it a deep, warm green, and turned it into something I had wanted for 15 years and never prioritized. Studio. I paint. Watercolors mostly, nothing serious. And I had always done it at the kitchen table with inadequate light and not enough space. Now I had a room with north-facing windows and proper shelves, and a work surface I didn't have to clear before dinner. Sounds small. It wasn't small. It was the first thing in that house that was entirely, uncomplicatedly mine. Chosen without compromise, built for no one's needs but my own. I stood in that room on the first morning after I finished it, coffee in hand, light coming through the new windows, and felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Not happiness exactly. Something quieter and more durable than happiness. Like I was standing on actual ground. I still live in the Queen and house. I still drink my coffee on the front porch in the mornings, watching the neighborhood wake up. The same view I've had for 11 years that somehow looks different now. Last spring I replanted the garden. Not the same plants as before, something new. Perennials mostly. Things that come back stronger every year without needing much help. I thought about David when I was planting them. Not with anger, not with grief. Just with the flat, clear recognition of someone you once knew well and now know differently. He made his choices. Made mine. Mine brought me here. To this house, this garden, this room with the north-facing windows and the morning light. Can live with that. More than that, I can build something with it.